Good morning. Will you reflect with me as I pray for you this morning? Creating, sustaining, Almighty God. Those here today are under a pressing responsibility, that of serving and caring for the citizens of this great territory. To fulfill their task, they will need wisdom and patience and understanding and a commitment to work together. And as they talk, debate, and decide, they must practice being quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, to put others before themselves, to look far into the future regarding the decisions that they make today, and to understand that the torch passed to them from failing hands not long ago will soon be the torch of leadership that they in turn pass to those following closely behind them. This is not a responsibility that they can accomplish alone, and thankfully they are not alone. They have one another, but more importantly, they have you, the Creator, who is far more interested and concerned about this great territory than even they are. So with this truth before them, I ask this morning that they be granted wisdom and patience and understanding and a commitment to work together that are beyond what they possess within themselves. That you, the Creator, give them these from your storehouse. And I ask that you remind them that they are not alone today, because you, the Creator, are with them and are watching them closely. And finally, I ask that you encourage them in their work today and give them both joy and satisfaction in it. On the behalf of the people that they serve, I ask this of you today. Amen. Amen. Please be seated.
I'd like to thank Pastor Nufton from the I just brutalized that, Nelton, from the Joint Task Force North for opening our session today. Minister statements. Minister statements. Mr. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, earlier today I had the honor of joining you and other members of this House at the first Poppy ceremony, marking the beginning of the season of remembrance to honour the veterans and serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Remembrance Day has been observed in Canada since 1919. It was originally known as Armistice Day and marked the end of the First World War in 1918 on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Each year since then, Canadians have taken this day as a moment of solemn reflection. Remembrance is our collective duty. On November 11th, we pause for a moment of silence to remember and honor all people who have served, who serve today, and those who sacrificed their lives for Canada to protect our country and to safeguard our freedoms through generations. Mr. Speaker, for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for us and for those who continue to protect us, I ask and encourage all residents of the Northwest Territories to take the time to pause, reflect, and honor them, not only on November 11th, but each and every day, lest we forget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Minister statements. Minister statements. Minister from ECE.
Mr. Speaker, during the last sitting, I committed to keeping this Legislative Assembly informed about the steps our government is taking to support adult learning and community-based education in response to Aurora College's decision to close community learning centres earlier this year. Today I rise to share an important milestone in that work. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to begin my update in Denejati. Se sinye gotli nde.
I'm pleased to share that the government has entered into a new agreement with the NWT Literacy Council. This partnership expands access to employment readiness training community across the territory with a focus on supporting youth and adults to build the skills they need to pursue meaningful employment and further education.
Megade eg halai da seke goga gonete ajo godli nde goke ji jeta gedi te ga eji la de joya koni gotse dene nicha ji ta aji se egla la gunda gani te gotse kenda metse ke goa gonite ga. Mr. Speaker, this new initiative is about meeting people where they are at in their communities and ensuring they have the tools to succeed in today's labor market. Over the next 18 months, we anticipate delivering this training in 10 different communities, with the first 4 rolling out in Hay River, Fort Smith, Fort Resolution, and Fort Providence later this fall. The NWT Literacy Council will engage with Indigenous governments and communities to help identify communities for further deliveries in 2026-2027. This program includes 5 weeks of classroom-based instruction, followed by 2 weeks of supported work placements, volunteer opportunities, or community projects. Participants will gain foundational skills such as resume writing, communication, digital literacy, teamwork, financial literacy, and workplace readiness. Importantly, the training is designed to prepare participants for the demands of the modern labor market while being tailored to the local community context. Mr. Speaker, this is not a pilot. It is a proven model. In recent years, the NWT Literacy Council delivered similar programming to 60 participants across communities in Wati, Wequity, Bechico, Fort Simpson, Gamity, Aklavik, and Fort McPherson. The results speak for themselves. 71% of participants went on to secure employment or pursue further education, including programs at Aurora College. This new agreement builds on that success. The training will include a strong cultural foundation by incorporating on-the-land learning and teachings from Indigenous knowledge holders. It also includes wraparound supports such as childcare, mental health supports, training allowances, and access to healthy foods. Employers participating in the on-the-job component will receive wage subsidies to support learners. Mr. Speaker, this agreement is about more than training. It's about empowerment. It's about ensuring Northerners have access to new opportunities and building stronger communities through education, employment, and partnership. I want to thank the NWT Literacy Council for their leadership and collaboration in making this initiative possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci.
Thank you, Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment. Minister Stevens. Mr. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to update you on the progress made by the Government of the Northwest Territories Sector Support Initiative for Non-Governmental Organizations. In response to the 2023 External Advisory Committee report on strengthening the nonprofit and charitable sector, the GNWT has committed to building stronger relationships, cutting red tape, and making funding more reliable for NGOs. A cross-departmental committee is actively addressing the report's recommendations. This includes updating the NGO funding guide, developing training on implementing the guide, and strengthening relationships between the GNWT and NGOs. As part of this work, we are taking a fresh look at how we fund NGOs to make sure our supports help them deliver the services that contribute to the GNWT priorities and meet government goals. NGOs now have access to GNWT training courses, and we have set up regular ways to share information, work together, and hear feedback from people in the sector. Our territory-wide survey on the Anti-Poverty Fund and on the NGO Stabilization Fund led to immediate changes to application processes. We made it easier to apply by eliminating the need for applicants to provide the same information more than once, and new processes allow us to notify applicants earlier about whether their application was successful and how much funding they will receive. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Executive and Indigenous Affairs and the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs are leading the development of an emergency social supports framework to better integrate NGOs into emergency management planning. We will be asking NGOs that provide human safety and security services to vulnerable residents to help shape this framework. We have also asked GNWT departments to work with their key NGO partners when developing departmental business continuity plans. These plans lay out how departments will keep their most important services running during and after major disruptions like natural disasters, a cyber attack, or a pandemic. Mr. Speaker, NGOs often deliver services more effectively than government and play a vital role in supporting our most vulnerable residents. By moving to a new partnership model based on mutual respect, we can better align our goals, streamline processes, and improve how services are delivered. By working together more closely with clear roles, shared accountability, better communication, simpler processes, and more stable funding, the GNWT and our NGO partners can deliver stronger, more coordinated, and people-centered support to residents across the Northwest Territories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Minister statements, member statements. Member from Toonaday-Willow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier in this session, I spoke about the importance of the Kacher process, reaching an outcome that is equitable and respectful of my people's rights. Today, I want to highlight another First Nation, the Dead Cho, who are also actively engaged in concluding a land claim process that will recognize and uphold their rights and interests. The Dead Cho First Nations have been engaged in negotiation with the territorial and federal government to secure an agreement in principle that reflects their rights, values, and vision for the future. However, the Dead Cho negotiation leaders report that they have been seeing very little movement at the negotiation table. The lack of progress is deeply concerning and undermines the trust and goodwill that are essential to any meaningful negotiation process. Mr. Speaker, the Dead Cho have tabled a proposal that are thoughtful, principled, and grounded in decades of dialogue and community engagement. They deserve more than a passive acknowledgement. They require action. The GNWT mandate recognizes that a strong and a respectful relationship with Indigenous governments is integral to the future prosperity of the Northwest Territories. Yet these negotiation process has now spanned over 2 decades, and prolonged delays risk eroding the momentum and hope that communities have worked so hard to build. I call on the Premier to demonstrate his commitment to this process by becoming personally involved. I urge him to immediately instruct the GNWT negotiators to act on the Dead Cho proposals so that negotiations can move forward in a timely and respectful manner. Leadership at the highest level is needed to ensure that this opportunity is not lost. The Dead Cho the Dead Cho nations are showing patience and resolve and are hopeful that an agreement in principle can be finalized with the territorial and federal government by June 2026. It is time for the territorial government to rise to the occasion with a meaningful engagement. Let's honor the spirit and reconciliation, not just with his words, but they deserve action. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from the Dead Cho. Before we go on to the next person, I'd like to recognize a special guest, our colleague, my former colleague in the 18th Assembly, but member from the Dead Cho in the 17th and 18th. We welcome you here to the Assembly, Mr. Natalie. Member statements. Member from Rangelake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Northwest Territories is home to a strong Francophone presence that has long been part of our territory's diverse, multilingual tapestry. Since the earliest days of the fur trade, the Franco-Ténois community has carried their legacy forward through generations of our shared northern history. This is no easy task in our smaller and more remote communities, where French language services are often limited. Yet despite these challenges, Francophone families continue to pass on their language, culture, and pride, keeping this living heritage strong across the North. One of our communities where Franco-Ténois have faced significant challenges in preserving their language and culture is Fort Smith, where an association of Francophone families has been forced to take the territorial government to court to secure French language education, despite Section 23 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guaranteeing the rights of French-speaking communities outside of Quebec. The Minister of ECE is disputing the number of rights holders in the community and suggesting they settle for French immersion classes instead. Monsieur le Président, les Franco...
Mr. Speaker, Francophone residents in the Northwest Territories have a constitutional right to French education, that is to say, first language education. It's unacceptable that families be obliged to leave Fort Smith simply because their children are unable to receive education in their first language. I would like to congratulate parents for the instruction in French they provided in Fort Smith, for their devotion, and for their perseverance. They are defending their rights, and these rights are enshrined in our Constitution. I'm convinced that they will succeed.
Forcing families to go to court to secure the best education for their children places an undue burden on them and can have a chilling effect on the exercise of charter rights. We should be developing models to deliver public services in as many of our official languages as possible. Whether you are Inuit, Métis, Dene, or Franco-Tenois, you should be able to maintain your culture and identity wherever you live in the Northwest Territories. This government seems more willing to risk costly court battles that they consistently lose rather than work collaboratively with communities from the outset. When will they end this expensive litigation and finally ensure the straightforward recognition of the rights and dignity of our language minority populations? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here. Thank you, member from Range Lake. Member statements. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last week, the Premier's Awards for Excellence recognized the outstanding work of individuals and organizations, and today I'd like to highlight some exceptional work being done by folks based in Yellowknife North. The Salvation Army has been a key partner in getting the Transitional Housing for Addictions Recovery program up and running here in Yellowknife. We've known for many years that in order to set people up for success who are returning from addictions programs down south, they need stable, supportive housing and a chance to establish new routines and new social connections. Finally, we're starting to fill this gap. The Salvation Army, with government partners, has repurposed an existing home into 5 transitional housing units. They offer flexible, recovery-oriented programming tailored to each resident. It took years of hard work to bring this brand new program to fruition, so hopefully this process has cleared an easier path for transitional housing programs in the future. Another Premier's Award for Excellence went to Megan Lowry and Amy Chin, community health nurses who run a street outreach program in Yellowknife. They are effectively meeting people where they're at, setting up mobile clinics, offering outreach and care at shelters, encampments, and on sidewalks throughout the city. They provide culturally safe care, ranging from non-emergency medical care to immunizations, chronic disease management, STI screening, assessments, and referrals, all in a one-stop shop, which is so rare in Yellowknife, where our healthcare services are often so compartmentalized and cumbersome to access. I think this is a case where Yellowknife is learning and gaining a lot from the small community model of care, where community health nurses take the lead. With some freedom to innovate, these nurses have truly gone above and beyond their job descriptions. They have shown what truly integrated care looks like by working in a hands-on way, side by side with nonprofit shelter providers. Due to their passion and drive to make a difference, the Street Outreach Nursing Team has managed to expand healthcare access, reduce emergency room visits, and measurably improve health outcomes for our most vulnerable residents. Congratulations to the Salvation Army and to Megan and Amy of the Street Outreach Community Health Nurse Team. Now it's our job to ensure the government continues to enable and support this kind of innovative and effective work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North. Member statements. Member from Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we gather here for our last session day for 2025, the federal government is preparing its upcoming budget, address, fall economic statement, and second nation building announcements. Our future concerns me there, Mr. Speaker, past disasters and the future uncertainty. Mr. Speaker, there's positive solutions. For example, for infrastructure deficit, we can recruit EPCM for project execution. Mr. Speaker, our physical position grows more dire by the quarter, and yet our nation-building projects that could secure our economic future, the critical infrastructure, and essential transportation links remain trapped in regulatory processes. Mr. Speaker, this is not a time for cautious optimism or patient negotiations. This is a moment that demands decisive action from this government. We must ensure that we are doing everything in our power and making our case forward for investments. Mr. Speaker, as we close the calendar year, previous years to date showed costly disasters, whole community evacuations, threatening wildfires, floods, costly fly-in essentials. Adaptations is our solution. Mr. Speaker, I recognize the possibility of a federal election. There is a possible 2-year timeline schedule for our NWT nation building project security. I urge this government to submit the business case for the Mackenzie Valley Highway as soon as possible. Our economic future depends on the investments. This will create a disposal economy, jobs opportunities, business opportunities, and taxable income. I also want to thank my colleagues here today and wish you a safe travel home and winter season. Merci.
Thank you, member from the Sawtoo. Member statements. Member from Inuit Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Excuse me. Mr. Speaker, today it's our last day of session. It's usually a day of reflection for myself, like many others, I'm sure, reflecting on all the hard work that's been done by committees, all the hard work that we've done throughout this budget process. And then, of course, Mr. Speaker, I reflect on thinking about those that the reason we can do this work and we're here to do this is the sacrifices of those that came before us, Mr. Speaker. I know personally I have and have had and still have members that serve in the military. I've had family members that served in both the First and Second World War, as well as other conflicts in the Middle East and around the world. And I know, as I said, other members, Mr. Speaker, here likely do as well. So I'm just a reminder, and to please everyone take part in your Remembrance Day ceremonies on November 11th. Support your local poppy drives where you can in your communities, Mr. Speaker. It's very important. These organizations do great work. Your local Legion, if you have one, do amazing community work, and that money is greatly needed for that poppy drive. So I certainly would remind and encourage everyone to take part in that, Mr. Speaker. And I just wanted to say thank you to the members that served on November 11th. I look forward to seeing my community and family members out at the event. And lest we forget, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Inuit Boot Lake. Member statement. Members from Mofu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about education in the Klitschko region and the importance of helping our students succeed. Mr. Speaker, many students face challenges that make it hard to stay in school. Our region has the worst overcrowding in the Northwest Territories. For many families finding a quiet space to study or do homework is not possible. We cannot accept this reality when the well-being of our children is at stake. Even with the lack of housing, we must develop strategies to support students and make sure they have every chance to succeed. Klitschko region has, Mr. Speaker, the Klitschko region also has one of the lowest attendance rates in the Northwest Territories. About 60% of students attend school regularly. That means many young people are missing valuable time in the classroom, time to learn, time to grow, and to build the skills they need for the future. We must work together as families, schools, and leaders to find ways to help our students stay in school and reach the graduation. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak directly to the students and families in my region and other regions as well. To the young people, education is a gateway to opportunity and a safety net for life. It helps you build the skills to find good jobs, support your family, and contribute to your community. It gives you confidence and the ability to make your own choices. When life gets hard, your education is something you can always rely on. It is a foundation that stays with you and helps you move forward. Education opens doors. With it, you can build a good and stable career, work towards a comfortable retirement, and enjoy the life you've earned. We all grow older, so make smart choices now that will help you live well later. Your education matters to the young people. Mr. Speaker, I will have a question for the Minister of Education. Thank you.
Member from Oakville. Member statements. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on this Halloween day, I would like to revive a dead debate of a previous assembly and join my colleague from Great Slave and the former member for Yellowknife North in talking about scrapping the time change. Mr. Speaker, we fall back to standard time this weekend on the night of November 1st and November 2nd, and as I do every year, I've been hearing from constituents on this. Mr. Speaker, when the 19th Assembly studied the possibility, NWT residents overwhelmingly supported the idea. As the member for Great Slave mentioned in her statement, over 3,500 people participated in the survey. 87% of respondents stated that they would like to scrap the change. And, you know, Mr. Speaker, I know that the Premier, when questioned about this, mentioned that it wasn't a priority, but I continue to hear from constituents about it, and I felt the need to raise their voices today. Mr. Speaker, it was not followed through, primarily, and you know, I had a conversation with the Premier offline, and since other neighboring jurisdictions were not immediately on board, there would be costs and difficulties to go through that route alone, and he shared some information with me on lessons learned from the Yukon, and I think it did give me pause. It's certainly something that doing it alone would be costly and difficult, and we have enough problems coordinating with Alberta as it is, and we don't need to add a time differential to those issues. So I was certainly disappointed personally when I saw the plebiscite results in Alberta that they chose not to scrap the change. But, Mr. Speaker, I also want to communicate a bit of a message of hope. There's momentum gaining behind this issue. A recent poll shows that a majority of Americans are in favor of scrapping the change. Only 12% are interested in keeping it. I heard that a bill was introduced in the American Senate to get rid of daylight savings time, and I've also understand that there's a private member's bill being studied in Ottawa to reiterate this interest and reset this debate. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to take the opportunity to reiterate my support, note that this is something that's important to my constituents. I think it's clear to me that this is something that needs to be done on a national and potentially a pan-national basis just to get everybody in line, and that the misalignment is the problem. But I think my constituents and thousands of Northerners who participate in the survey would like to see the Premier expressing support for scrapping the change when he has the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Frame Lake. Member statements. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's that time of year again. I give my annual statement, and I encourage people to see it for what it is, a little humor into the Assembly, and hopefully the Cabinet isn't offended, and certainly that isn't the intent. Mr. Speaker, in the theme of Adam's family, I'll start again this year. Mr. Speaker, they sit there in their spooky chairs with powers they refuse to share. Members eating day-old spam while Cabinet feasts on suckling ham. The Simpson family. They get their briefings and act like czars. They stuff their ridings with trucks and cars. Cabinet sits and laughs away while members poke toil away. The Simpson family. We slog with motions in this house. The Cabinet sits silent like a mouse. They call it consensus. We say gross. The Simpson family. They sit there in their spooky chairs with powers that they refuse to share. Members eating day-old spam while Cabinet feasts back on that suckling ham. The Simpson family. The budget's too thin, they're too cheap, the ministers all are fast asleep. No dust control for my hometown, money never seems to go around. That's the Simpson family. Bring it home, Mr. Speaker. My goat trail repairs are too steep. They take our money to build their heaps. Through slush and snow, our roads no-go, the Simpson family. And finally, Mr. Spooker in his creepy chair, his Igor watch is far too close. As members are truly engrossed, we have to work with the Simpson family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank all members for the fact that once a year we can take a little fun and enjoy it in the spirits intended. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, noting I don't have any time on the clock, I will say, please have a safe Halloween and enjoy it in the spirit it is that we are coming together. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife Center. Member statements. Members, good afternoon, colleagues, or good morning, colleagues. Today, I rise to share the passing of a beloved member of the Fort Simpson community. On September 1st, 2025, the Norwegian and Godbut family, along with the broader community, lost a cherished mother, wife, godmother, sister, aunt, and friend, Roland Marie Godbut, Norwegians. Rolanda was born on March 8, 1951 in Dunmont, New Brunswick, to Dora and Roland Godbout. She was the third of 7 children and grew up surrounded by her siblings and a deep love for animals on the homestead. After completing high school, Roland pursued a teaching career at university. This career brought her north, and while she was not known at the time, Fort Simpson would become her home, forever home. Although she eventually realized that teaching was not her true calling, her move north led her to discover something even greater, her lifelong partner, Andy Norwegian. They married in December of 1975 and were just 4 months shy of celebrating their 50th anniversary. Today, Roland and Andy built a beautiful home and a loving family, raising a daughter, Zita, a son, Guy, and welcoming 2 more daughters, Charlene and Hillary, in their family. Colleagues, Rolanda was a kind and generous woman who gave freely of her time and heart to her family, friends, and community. One small story shared about her passing speaks volume. A woman of the community contributed food for the receptions, recalled how when she arrived in Fort Simpson without transportation, Rolanda would drive her to various communities without a complaint. The simple fact of kindness left a lasting impression, as did many of Rolanda's gestures throughout her life. I had the honor of meeting both Rolanda and Andy when I arrived in the community. They were warm, welcoming, and deeply committed to both Fort Simpson and to the values of education. Rolanda was always friendly, always smiling. Whether she was working or volunteering, she gave her full effort with grace and dedication. Rolanda's funeral was well attended by family, friends, and community members from Jean Marie, Sambakay, and Fort Simpson. 4 of her siblings were present. The service, held in 3 languages, English, French, and Denijati, was a beautiful tribute, and one Roland would have truly appreciated. Her sister-in-law, Gladys Norwegian, delivered a eulogy, which I have attached to the statement and respectfully request it be deemed as read and printed in the Hansard. The family extends their heartfelt thanks to the staff at the West Edmonton Kidney Care Center, Stanton Hospital, University of Alberta Hospital, Royal Alexander Hospital, Kamloops Hospital, and the Fort Nelson Health Center, as well as to the dedicated teams at the Fort Simpson Home Care, Long-Term Care, and Health Center. Their gratitude also goes to the many family members and friends who offered prayers and support during Roland's sickness. Roland will be deeply missed, but never forgotten. Her legacy of love, compassion, and service will live in and all those who lives she touched. Member statements. Returns to oral questions. Recognition of visitors gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize my former colleague and good cousin, Michael Nadley, who is here in the gallery today. Great to have you back in the House. And I'd also like to recognize some pages from my riding of Range Lake: Ava Fuentes, Hayden Perka, Savannah Martin Maitland, Tristan Taggart, and Matthew Sisson. It's great to have you working. You've been good spirits with long days and lots of talking, but we couldn't do this job without you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Member Range Lake. Recognition is a visitor in the gallery. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to recognize one of our pages, Alexis Grant from Yellowknife North. Again, I want to thank all of the pages for their work this week, their patience with us, and always keeping our water glasses filled, and hopefully having a little fun and learning something along the way too. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Yellowknife North. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from Toonaday-Willety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to also recognize the former MLA, Mike Natalie, and also he used to be the Grand Chief of the Decho region as well. Also like to say thank you to all the translators that are here, honestly, for your services, and also the pages and staff of the Legislative Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Toonaday-Willety. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from Hayward River North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize one of our former colleagues, Mr. Michael Nadley, and current negotiator for the Decho First Nation. So if members want to support that Decho process, maybe we can wrap up question period early so I can sit down and meet with Mr. Nadley today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Hayward River North. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from the Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to recognize Michael Nadley. I had the pleasure of working alongside him during the 18th Assembly, and also recognizing our pages and the endless services they provide. Have a good weekend in our translation department. May you all enjoy the weekend. Mussy.
Thank you. Member from the Sawtooth. Recognition of visitors in gallery. Member from Kamloops.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to recognize today our interpreters. My favorite day of session is the day that you and I get to have lunch with all of them. I appreciate the time they spend with each of us and the extra time they spend with me helping me on my statements. I'd also like to do a special recognition of Susie Napoyak-Short, our Inukshuk translator. It is her birthday today, Mr. Speaker.
Happy birthday, young lady. 29 for the first time. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from Yellowknife Center.
It's up to the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I too wish to say hello to and acknowledge my cousin from the Decho, Michael Nadley. I was a former member he was a former member with me, or we were members at the same time, however you want to put it. I know he's very passionate about the Decho process, and I'm convinced that if anyone can help bring that process home to completion, it will be him. Thank you very much for his hard work and care. Thank you.
Thank you. Member from Yellowknife Center. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from Oakley.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Clichoa Tatiginli, Jonas Lafferty, it's on Mauro Sundberg.
I'd like to say thank you to the Clincho interpreters, Jonas Lafferty and Mauro Sundberg, and all the rest of the. We know that it's a hard job, hard work. I'm very thankful to them. And also all the people that are working alongside with me. Hopefully that we'll have a safe journey home to our loved ones. Mussy.
Thank you, member from Mophie. Recognition of visitors in gallery. Recognition of visitors in gallery. Yellowknife South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize another resident of Yellowknife South, a politically involved sports mom like myself, Nicole Saar. Thank you.
Recognition of visitors in gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. If we've missed anyone in the gallery today, we welcome you to your chambers. Like I said numerous times, you've given us the ability to represent, us 19 get to represent the people of the Northwest Territories for the 4 years, and I thank you very much for that honor. I hope you're enjoying the proceedings. It is always nice to see people in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Acknowledgements. Acknowledgements. Sorry, I just have to get a piece of paper here. No. Oral questions. Member from Trinidad-Welland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government has committed to continuing to strengthen the relationship with Indigenous governments and work in partnership towards shared future based on system of cooperative governance. My question is to the Premier. How does the Premier reconcile that with a reported lack of progress at the Detroit negotiation table? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Trinidad-Welland. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There has been enhanced cooperation around the territory with Indigenous governments. I can attest to that. Indigenous governments can attest to that. Maybe not every single person in the territory is on the same page and has the same opinion, but I hear it all the time that we are collaborating, cooperating in a different way, and it's much appreciated. That being said, there's collaborating in general, and then there's the negotiating table, and those are two different things. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier. Member from Trinidad-Welland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the Detroit negotiation process has spanned over 2 decades, what specific steps will the GNW take to accelerate progress and rebuild trust with the Detroit First Nation? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Trinidad-Welland. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So recently, the Detroit First Nation and the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations committed to working towards an agreement in principle early next year. And I've said that the GNWT is not going to be the party that slows that down. So I'm committing to working alongside all of the other groups in the negotiations to ensure that we are doing our part to move these negotiations along as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Final supplementary. Member from Trinidad-Welland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Premier commit to personally engaging in the Detroit process negotiations to ensure that the GNWT responds meaningfully to the proposals that have been tabled? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Trinidad-Welland. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will engage in the process as the minister, as is appropriate. I don't want to say that I'm going to sit at the negotiating table. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I can just do, Mr. Nataly's job without a lot of background information, a lot of training, and a lot of time spent digging deep into the file. We have people who do that work, and it's my role to ensure that at the high level, I'm providing the direction needed to get things done, and I'm going to do that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Great Slate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions today are for the Minister of ECE. I'm really happy to hear that our NWT nominee program will be opening up again to another intake. We have about 2 months before the end of the year. So can the Minister please tell me how ECE is preparing to deal with the inevitable rush for applications? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Great Slate, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, luckily through conversations both at the political level and officials level, we had a tiny bit of pre-warning that some increases would be coming. We didn't know exactly what those numbers would be, but that little bit of time allowed us to work diligently behind the scenes to ensure that we were getting ready, ensuring systems were in place, ensuring staffing was in place. Staff will need to work overtime in order to get these applications processed and have committed to doing their darndest after a very busy year in order to help us process as many of those applications as possible. And so I'm very thankful to the hard work of staff in that department. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Great Slate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and yes, thank you to ECE staff as well. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister explain, we had folks apply in February and July of this year. They didn't make the cut for a space in the NTNP. So how many applicants in this intake will that cover? Will we go back to those original folks, or will they have to reapply again? Thank you.
Great Slate, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, all eligible applicants from both February and July 2025 intakes were accepted and are currently being processed. Anybody who was not an eligible applicant was immediately notified that their application was ineligible, so they will need to reapply for the third intake of 2025. Thank you.
For Education, Culture, Employment. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife Center. Grace Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for that from the Minister. And if we do not fill the full allotment of spaces that we have retained back to the 300 level, will we lose spaces in the 2026 allotment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Grace Lake, Minister, Education, Culture, and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this was also a concern of mine. I was able to clarify with the federal government that they acknowledge that it will be a challenge to fill all of the spots in the remainder of the calendar year. And while they have indicated to us there's no opportunity for carryover of spots into 2026, our inability to process of some applications on the back end is not going to have an impact on the allotment that we get for our program in 2026. Thank you.
From Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment. Oral questions. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the June 2024 budget commitments, Health and Social Services committed to expand midwifery services to 2 more communities without birthing services. Mr. Speaker, what progress has been made on the establishment of midwifery services in Betchiko?
Thank you. Member from Frame Lake. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Sorry.
Mr. Speaker, sorry.
Great. Member from Frame Lake, can you please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to reiterate the question, and I didn't specify I was asking of the Minister of Health and Social Services, but Mr. Speaker, in their June 2024 budget commitments, Health and Social Services committed to expand midwifery services to 2 more communities without birthing services. My first question is, what progress has been made on the establishment of midwifery services in Betchiko? Thank you.
From Frame Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. The midwifery leaders at the department and the Health Authority have explored what it would take to expand service to Betchiko and a second community within the existing fiscal resources. These discussions led to a thoughtful and holistic proposal of the future expansion of midwifery services. However, the level of financial investment required, combined with the ongoing recruitment and retention challenges, makes the expansion beyond the current service not possible right now at this time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm quite disappointed to hear that. I understand, Mr. Speaker, this was a budget commitment made in response to a committee and was committed to on the floor by the Finance Minister. It's difficult for me to understand them saying now it can't be done. Can the Minister elaborate on that, and why are we reneging on the commitment? Thank you.
From Frame Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Tlicho government, as a self-governing Indigenous nation, has indicated through the Tlicho Community Service Agency that they are not ready to integrate formal midwifery services into their system at this time. We must respect their position and continue to work collaboratively to support the community health priorities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, certainly I respect that response, but the commitment also did speak to expanding to communities outside of that region. So, you know, the point is that midwifery services are needed in many communities. There was an additional community in the list. Why is an additional community not being considered? Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at this time, the department's focus remains on sustaining and strengthening the existing midwifery programs in Fort Smith and Hay River, which are foundational to our midwifery care in the Northwest Territories. Expansion is not solely a matter of funding, but it also depends on the availability of qualified midwives, community readiness, and the ability to maintain high-quality cultural safe care, recruitment and retention challenges continue to be a significant barrier, and efforts are underway to address these through targeted strategies, including the midwife recruitment campaign that was launched in December 2024. However, there hasn't been any, the recruitment challenges still remain. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Rangeley.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'ai des questions pour le ministère de l'Éducation.
Chair, I have questions for the Minister of Education regarding the French language education as a first language.
The product of the immersion system, so I will spare the House that. Our French, how we manage our commission scolaire is very different than our neighboring territory of the Yukon. The Yukon government gives far more flexibility to the commission scolaire to make their own decisions within the policy set, where our government has very restrictive models of controlling admissions and other aspects of French first language education in the Northwest Territories. Will the minister commit to adopting a model more similar to the Yukon's, where there's more autonomy given to the commission scolaire, so French language education is in the hands of French language or Francophone communities? Thank you.
Member from Rangeley, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am also a product of the French immersion system and believe that representation certainly matters. And that said, Mr. Speaker, I am currently working on some regulation changes alongside CSF-TNO here in the Northwest Territories. Specifically, our regulations speak to the fact that currently, French first language schools are found in Yellowknife and Hay River, and so we are removing the designation of those two communities. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are provisions that allow that Francophone minority language communities to ask for education services to be provided if they demonstrate a need. Can the minister explain why or what processes are in place to ensure that when rights holders are applying for their constitution, their charter rights to education, that those are met, regardless of capacity challenges from this government, but when a right is asserted, it needs to be honored. So does the department have processes in place that when Francophone communities are asserting that, or language minorities are asserting that, they will be heard? Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we do have processes in place, and it's not just the Department of Education, Culture and Employment working alone. We also work quite closely with the Department of Justice to make sure that we're working together, that we're gathering information that we have available to us, and working through this process with French first language communities. Thank you.
Culture and Employment. Final supplementary. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yet they keep getting sued, Mr. Speaker, so clearly something's not working. So will the minister commit to a full evaluation of this system? And let's take one aspect of it, the 85% capacity threshold for enrollments. Will she convert that to a capacity threshold on non-rights holders, as they have in the Yukon, so we can allow these schools to grow, to thrive, these students to thrive, and Francophones to have their rights respected in the Northwest Territories? Thank you.
Member from Rangeley, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, well, absolutely, we respect Section 23 rights of Canadians and uphold those rights as a territory. We've also heard frequently in this House this week about the need to make sure that we're also balancing the needs of all kids in all schools across this territory. So one of my responsibilities is to ensure that that need is balanced across the territory and that we are able to maintain and invest in the assets that we do have. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, recently there was a proposal for housing that had gone out and been awarded. Dozens upon dozens of people pulled the contract to look at it, and it boiled down to 5 people presented a bid, and ultimately 4 out of the 5 were disqualified for that housing bid, and hence there was 1 that remained. Now, I'm not here about saying one bid should matter over the other, and I'm not picking a bidder or a winner, but the fact that remains is that after the bid was awarded, there's a thing called an appeal period. But the bid continues to be awarded to the one standing company only. So what's the point, sure, to the minister, what's the point of having an appeal period if it just gets ignored and the contract just follows through as if no one else matters at that point? Thank you.
Mailman Center, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, yes, a contract was recently awarded and announced for the Northwest Territories, 84 modular units in the north. There is an exemption period, an appeal period, and housing is moving forward with the construction, and the exemption or the oversight of the bid will be used as a lesson going forward if there's any discrepancies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Responsible for Housing and NWT. Member from Yonge Centre.
Mr. Speaker, and if in the standard we use for hiring process, if there was a competition and the job ends up finding one winner, and there's appeal period, no one's technically awarded the job until that appeal period is going. Why is this so much different, given the fact that it's the exact same concept, except we award millions of dollars and we put millions of dollars at risk during the appeal period, that we could end up paying for it twice in theory? Thank you.
Yonge Centre, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again, thank you to the member for the question. It is quite concerning and to him, but Housing NWT needs to move forward with our modular construction because, as everyone knows, in this Assembly and in the Northwest Territories, we need homes, and we need more homes for Northerners. So if we continue to wait for appeal periods and vendor complaint processes, holding up the entire process, that means we're losing time to build homes and move those homes into communities. So it is a vendor complaint process, not an appeal process, and this will inform future process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Housing and NWT. Final supplementary. Member from Yonge Centre.
Mr. Speaker, these are very complicated processes, and waiting a week or two does not change the ultimate outcome of this. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask the minister, would she be willing to go back and revisit this process? Because if a contract is eventually identifies the successful bidder, we should allow the people who want to appeal at least a reasonable amount of time to put their case to say maybe an error was made in awarding the process, but yet only courts will solve that problem, and we could have a full transparency process if the minister's willing to investigate this and see if she can amend the policies. Thank you.
Yonge Centre, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, just repeating my answer, it is a vendor complaint process, and this will inform future processes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Housing and NWT. Oral questions. Member from Milford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for a question for Minister of Education. When students face challenges like overcrowded housing, what supports are available to help them stay in school and finish their education? Thank you.
Member from Milford, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many of our schools in the Northwest Territories have a staff member that they dedicate to supporting students and families. These days as well, we have many of our schools who have our kind of peer counseling program or wellness worker program, and so those are roles as well that also help students work through the variety and spectrum of challenges that our students are experiencing these days. And other programs that have seen quite a lot of success are our Healthy Foods program in our schools, which do draw students in. We end up with warm breakfasts, warm lunches, multiple meals during the day. And then in addition to that, education bodies can look at their staffing cohort and what the needs are of their students, and have chosen different ways to address that and make sure that they're supporting students' needs where they're at. Thank you.
Mr. Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Milford.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of ECE explain how that department is working to connect with young people and keep them engaged in school in small communities? Thank you.
From Milford, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, within our system, the Department of Education largely connects with the teachers themselves and the educators and makes sure that they're providing them with the support that they need. This can be either through meetings that I have with chairs and superintendents along with officials from the department in our Ed Leaders meetings that happen multiple times a year. This happens also when I sit down with the NWTTA multiple times a year. But there's also professional development that happens from the department to the teachers, and a lot of that can be led or directed by what it is that the education body is looking for, because it's our teachers that spend all of their times with students across the territory at the end of the day. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Final supplementary, member from Milfley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of ECE commit to working with families to better support students and improve attendance and engagement? Thank you. It's Malcolm.
Thank you, member from Milfley. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the opportunity I have to connect with education leaders is through our education leader table meetings, and I can certainly commit to continuing to bring this forward to them. Attendance is something that we talk about quite often, and the member has my commitment absolutely to continue to keep this top of mind and top of discussion, because it's vitally important that our kids are in school. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions, member from Great Slate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have more questions for the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Can the Minister tell me when the GNWT sets securities, does that process take into account the wide spectrum of future possibilities from bankruptcy to planned closure? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Great Slate, Minister of ECC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. The answer is certainly yes. As the regulatory process proceedings roll along, the department provides a number of estimates, whether it's regarding a regular closure and what that remediation process looks like. So I'll give a couple of examples. We would offer, advice on water management, fuel and equipment, mobilizing and demobilizing in the event of a regular kind of process of shutdown. We also provide estimates in the instance of the worst case scenario where a business was to go bankrupt, and those security estimates take various things into consideration. It assumes that the third party contractor will have additional costs because they'll have to be brought into site. It assumes that the fuel on site would potentially not be salvageable, so that cost is calculated in as an example. And it also assumes that crews and equipment, in order to do that work, would need to be mobilized to site. So that's an example of some of the work that we do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Environment and Climate Change. Member from Great Slate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister explain what happens if and when a resource development company goes bankrupt and the GNWT is left with the bill? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slate, Minister ECC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that's a question that really has a number of possible directions as to how it could be answered. Certainly, at the end of the day, we have securities that are set through the process, which we hold as a government to ensure that we have resources to do that cleanup at the end of the day. Having said that, we have processes here where we may come for supplemental appropriations if that was to exceed the budget that was available. But we would also look at other possible ways to ensure that that work is done in the most economical way to ensure that we're staying within the commitments that are made, and realizing that part of that process is really ensuring we have a balance of securities held overall to ensure that we're able to do the work at the end of the day, but we're also considering that there are instances where things may not go as planned. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. ECC. Oral questions. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the previous Minister of Infrastructure committed to establishing a building standards framework or act which addresses accessibility concerns repeatedly raised by the Human Rights Commission. Mr. Speaker, does the current Minister of Infrastructure have an update on the initiative to create a building standards framework or act? Thank you.
Thank you, member from Frameland. Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, I'm aware of this, and there is a commitment to continue this process. However, obviously with priorities of the government, things do change and do slow down different lines of work. However, we know that there's a need for this and we'll continue to work on it. The Department of Infrastructure, Municipal Community Affairs, Department of Housing have been reviewing all the existing regulations, and we're hopefully going to advance some of this here in 2026. And yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure. Member from Frameland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that was a fairly non-committal answer. Hopefully advance. I would like to get a bit more concrete from the Minister. This is certainly one that's important to me and repeatedly raised by the Human Rights Commission. Would the Minister be able to offer a commitment that we're going to advance work on this and perhaps have a legislative proposal in 2027? Thank you.
Minister of Infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always nice to try to commit, but we all know how we work here in the government, and it's we get sidetracked with doing other lines of work, and our priorities on legislative proposals change. And yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, the policies, the legislative work, and all the backgrounds being worked on. Obviously, I should be clear, it's not a current priority, but there is work being done to try to move this along, as we know that this is an appetite for many members of this government. So again, the commitment is to continue to work on this and move it along to try to get this out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure. Final supplementary. Member from Frameland.
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Yolney Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to return to the question I was asking earlier here, and I'm concerned about natural justice when we have 5 bidders, 4 have been disqualified, and ends up with only 1. It's not about the fact that the individual company got it, it's about the process, Mr. Speaker. So my questions now are directed to the Minister responsible for procurement services, asking about particularly around natural justice. Where is the fairness in having an appeal process that doesn't allow the individuals to actually appeal the contract that the government refuses to consider them as a wanting opportunity, or sorry, a willful opportunity to be involved? Thank you.
Yolney Centre. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is one of the things we are working on right now is actually to have an improvement to our vendor complaint process. The process that we have right now is a review process, and anyone that goes through a procurement and is unsuccessful at the end of that procurement can go through the review process, and it would be explained to them where they may have been unsuccessful or why they may have been unsuccessful, and procurement shared services can work with potential proponents so that they can improve bids going forward. Mr. Speaker, with respect to what is obviously a very specific circumstance that is being referenced here, housing does take on most of its own procurement when it's services, but for large contracts, they do have the benefit of working with procurement shared services, which they did in this case. And in this case, they also had a fairness advisor involved from the very beginning because it is a large procurement. So in this particular instance, again, I won't speak much more into the details of it, but I will assure the public that a fairness advisor was involved throughout the process, and that there is at least one of the disqualified parties is going through the review to understand the decisions that were made. Thank you.
Minister of Infrastructure. Member from Yolney Centre.
So, Mr. Speaker, it seems clear there is no appeal period. There's a let's complain and whine period, but there's no appeal period. So, Mr. Speaker, if there's an error in the review process, the bidder is the unsuccessful bidder is the one that ultimately gets punished. So how can we fix that their bid has an appeal period that's actually an appeal period where it gets reviewed with the eye that maybe an error was made and considered in the fulsome ability that it was worthy to submit and have the chance. And if it's still found wanting, that's okay too, Mr. Speaker. Where is that chance? Thank you.
Member from Yolney Centre. Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if a fairness advisor, for example, were to identify that there was any irregularity or concern raised, a procurement can be paused, and a procurement certainly can be, we can make a decision not to continue. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, we certainly want to ensure that, fundamentally, that the reputation of the government to follow through with procurements when they've put out is maintained, and that they continue to do so in a transparent fashion. So there are quite a number of rules that are associated to conducting a procurement and to conducting a public procurement in particular. I can see that there certainly has been work over the last few years in terms of improving that process, starting with the procurement review of the last government, and bringing forward a number of changes, not the least of which is to our vendor engagement systems, vendor performance management on the side of the government, and vendor inquiry processes on the other side. And we're going to continue to refine that process. But in the meantime, Mr. Speaker, that is why there's a review, so that vendors do have an opportunity to raise a concern if there is one, and the government would have an opportunity to determine whether or not the concern is one that warrants interference with the procurement, the otherwise transparent and public procurement process. Thank you.
Correction, that was the Minister of Finance, not the Infrastructure Minister. I apologize. Final supplementary, member from Yolney Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, would the minister be very clear to this House that there is no appeal period? It's simply a whine, complain, and lick your wounds process. Thank you.
Yolney Centre, Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, public procurement processes are one that the government takes very seriously. It is very important to ensure that when an RFP goes out, that it is adhered to, it is put out publicly. The very nature of the process is that there will be a successful bidder and there will be not successful bidders. And what we do at that point, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure, again, as I've said, that we throughout the process are monitoring what's going on internally, that when there's a large procurement, there's a fairness advisor from outside of the government to monitor that process. And if there are concerns raised that suggest that the underpinnings of the process are not adhering to the standards that we expect of them, then we certainly can look at whether or not to cancel a procurement or pause a procurement. But, Mr. Speaker, when there's an unsuccessful bidder, they can participate in the review process to understand why they were unsuccessful. The fact that someone's unsuccessful does not necessarily mean that the process was not adhered to or that the process was unfair. Notwithstanding the specific circumstances, but because we believe in good process, we are going to continue to improve that process and make the ability of vendors to come forward in different means better. That review process right now is one that continues to feed in so that going forward, public procurement adheres to the highest standards. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Finance. Oral questions, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier today, I've heard in this House before that the Department of Executive, and Indigenous Affairs and Municipal and Community Affairs are leading the development of an emergency social supports framework to better integrate NGOs into emergency management planning. So I'd like to ask the Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs if the SPCA and other organizations involved with the welfare of animals are involved in these plans. Thank you.
Member from Range Lake, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I am the minister, I'm not directly involved in that process, so I'd have to find out more detail on it, on exactly who's all involved in this. And just to be clear, the EIA is heading a lot of this work with that stuff, so it's not necessarily all municipal and community affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you. Well, apologies to the minister. I thought leading when both departments were playing a more or less equal role, but the minister has worked to update emergency plans, incorporate recommendations from after action reports. So has the minister made any steps with the EMO and with those emergency plans to incorporate the SPCA and organizations involved in animal wellness into emergency plans? Thank you.
From Range Lake, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the government is not responsible for agencies to make up their emergency plans. It's the responsibility of NGOs and agencies to make up their own emergency plans. And at the end of the day, we have to work with those NGOs to make sure that they're completely involved and that there's communication on what steps to take in case there is an emergency. For the finer detail of some of the questioning there, Mr. Speaker, I'd have to get back to the member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Final supplementary, member from Range Lake.
Thank you. Well, I suppose I will have to take questions to the Premier, but this emergency supports framework, how does the Minister understand this working then? Because it sounds like it's not a system-wide framework that's going to change things. It sounds like these are still up to individual things, at least according to his understanding. So can he clarify what this framework is supposed to do from the perspective of his department? Thank you.
Range Lake, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stated many times, a lot of this work is being done in a Canadian standard. We're not inventing our own wheel here and trying to make up our own plans. Working with agencies like that are, collaborative approach. It's not about the department going to these NGOs and essentially forcing them to work with the government. They have their own needs, they have their own requirements, and at times it may not even involve the government support. So again, there's multiple departments involved in this work, and we'll continue to work with the group to the EIA and NGOs in order to make sure that everybody's informed and working together with emergency plans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Oral questions. Member from Yonge North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask questions of the Minister for Environment and Climate Change. A moment ago, my colleague was asking about security estimates and what would happen in a hypothetical case of a mine bankruptcy. And the Minister stated both that they would use the security deposits, but also if that wasn't enough, then it might have to come back to the government and we might see some supplementary appropriations being requested in this House. Can the Minister confirm whether the securities it holds will cover the entire cost of a potential cleanup operation in the case of a company sort of failure or bankruptcy? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yonge North, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the security that is put forward for any given remediation plan is set by the respective board that would be associated with that regulatory process or proceeding. And that is also based on the approved remediation plan that would also have been approved by the board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Oral questions. Member from Yonge North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister confirm whether there is always an approved remediation plan approved before an operation is allowed to get underway? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yonge North, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as part of the regulatory proceedings process, the board process approves the remediation plan as well as the associated securities of that plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Final supplementary, member from Yonge North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister also tell us whether the formulas that are used to calculate security estimates, whether they're based on real-world evidence? Is it tested in comparison to what things cost in real life, or is it just based on a theoretical formula? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yonge North, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Environment and Climate Change provides estimates to the board. The board then takes those estimates that are provided and are the ultimate authority that sets the appropriate securities around that process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Oral questions. Member from Nunavut Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have questions for the Minister of Health. As she's aware, residents of Inuvik have been advocating for a CT scan up there for several years now. I understand there is an RFP either out or going out for a schematic design on this. Can the Minister update the House, please, on that RFP? Thank you.
Member from Newton Boot Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at this time, where we are is we're finalizing the preliminary feasibility study, and I'm actually going to be briefed on that next week for the CT scan. And this would be part of the larger RFP that we talked about in the capital of the long-term care and the midlife upgrade. Thank you.
Health and Social Service, member from Inuvik Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's good to hear. Certainly that was leading into my second question about the larger picture. So it is still the intent in that the CT scan design is part and parcel of the design for the addition for the long-term care as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Inuvik Boot Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the member, as we were moving along with the planning parts of the long-term care plan for the Inuvik Hospital. However, part of that planning came up with infrastructure needs within the current structure of our hospital. So looking at the age of the building, knowing that we were going to be adding on, there are some other things within the facility that are going to need upgrades. So that has delayed the RFP, and we're hoping to have that out in the hopefully within the new year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Inuvik Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the Minister for that. That is certainly positive news that I'm sure the residents will be happy to hear, knowing that we are still in the design phase, although this long-term care has certainly been kicking around for a few years now. Can the Minister speak to, how confident she is that we can get this in the capital plan and get this rolling prior to the end of this assembly, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
Member from New Boot Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the members' questions. As the health minister, as a member, I know that this has been kicking around for many years. And changes to our bed projections have changed over the last two governments. And so what we are, we're moving forward with a data-driven process, and that data-driven process has landed us to the 20-bed addition to the current hospital. And so that is where we're moving forward with the midlife upgrades and the feasibility study with, possibility of adding that CT scan into this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Mophie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to ECC Minister. It's regarding the statement that I did yesterday on Ray Rock Mine. So first, I want to ask the Minister of ECC, can he confirm whether territorial testing of the surrounding water near the Ray Rock site has been completed to assess potential contamination and ensure the safety of Bichicum residents? Thank you.
Mophie, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Ray Rock site there's a site there that's a 12 square kilometer area around the former mine site. This site was excluded from the devolution agreements under Part D of Section 7 and remains under the control of the Government of Canada. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of ECC. Member from Mophie.
Thank you. So how is the government working with the responsible authorities, just like you said, to share clear and accessible information with the community of Bichicum about testing results and the impact on surrounding area? Thank you.
Minister of ECC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, between 2018 and 2020, CERNAC worked in collaboration with the Toledo government on a remedial action plan. That action plan was put into action in 2024 and is projected to take 3 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of ECC. Final supplementary. Member for Mophie.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. Will the government commit to working with the responsible authority to provide regular updates to the community of Bichico as the Ray Rock Mine remediation project moves forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Mophie. Minister of ECC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we're not, the department is not directly involved in the remediation of this site. You know, it is a collaborative effort between the Toledo government and the government of Canada. You know, I think that, you know, we're happy to reach out and see if there is information available and direct the appropriate participant within the process to relay that, ensure that information is relayed to the Toledo government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. ECC. Oral questions. Member from Inuvik Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last year the Minister of Infrastructure committed, of course, to chip sealing the bypass road in Inuvik as part of the project on the runway. That was received with open arms, I should say, in Inuvik. It's been something that's been trying to get done for the past several assemblies. So now, Mr. Speaker, I'll ask this Minister of Infrastructure, since portfolios have changed, if he too will maintain that commitment to ensure that the bypass road in Inuvik will get its chip seal in the life of this assembly, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Thank you, Member from Inuvik Boot Lake, Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, I was waiting for the light to come on there. That was last year's minister. I can't commit to anything. No, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to take away that commitment at all. I'll work with the department to commit to trying to make sure that we're completed that by the end of our assembly, as the previous minister has done so also, and I share the same response there, that I think it's important that we finish that off there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs, Member from Inuvik Boot Lake.
Just one quick follow-up, Mr. Speaker. I heard it trying to commit in there, so just to ensure that we did get a commitment from the minister to ensure that does get paid in this assembly, or chip sealed. Sorry.
Yes or no?
Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't run the chipping machine, but we'll work on it, and hopefully we can commit to getting that done. As I stated, whatever the previous minister said, I will try to stick to it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Municipal and Community Affairs. Oral questions. Member from Inuvik Boot Lake? Nope. Go ahead. You got one left.
Well, I thought I was done, but I think I got a hopefully and a maybe in there that time. I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker. But again, I appreciate the minister's support on this, and again, looking for the commitment to ensure that we do get this done.
Question.
Member from Inuvik Boot Lake, Minister of Infrastructure.
Yes.
Yes, we're committed to looking at getting that done.
Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Oral questions. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a priority of mine is public service in the sense of how we serve the public. So I did see from the Baronet recently service improvement boot camps and individual workshops for staff. So my question today is for the Minister of Finance. How many, these programs have been going on for quite some time now, about 6 years. How many of these programs are fully subscribed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Great Slave, Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe for anyone that watching and eager to take one of these programs. It's the Certified Service Professional, I believe, Certified Service Professional and Certified Service Manager work. They have been going on for many years, but they have shifted a few years ago to being an online program, so they wouldn't necessarily get fully subscribed, Mr. Speaker. But so folks who are interested certainly can contact. It's the OCIO that actually manages this particular program, as that is our contact point within the Department of Finance. And they continue to receive quite a number of attention, a lot of attention from public servants. So I'm not concerned about oversubscription. If people are interested, they should check in with the OCIO. Thank you.
Minister of Finance. Member from Great Slave.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for that. What I really like about these programs is that it talks about citizen-centric service. So we're putting the people that we serve first. So that's really good that they're popular. I'd like to ask the Minister, is there any way that we are measuring or demonstrating that the public service is improving as a result of these workshops? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave, Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we do conduct every 2 years the Employee Engagement and Satisfaction Survey, which obviously is internal, wouldn't necessarily be an outward-facing with respect to the perspective of the clients of front-facing front service providers, but certainly does engage and measure the degree to which public servants themselves are sensing their improvement, or seeing their engagement, or feeling the level of delivery of service that they provide. There's a number of different measures, and in fact, it's a little plug, Mr. Speaker, because that survey has just gone out again. I know I look at them, the deputy ministers certainly look at them, so that is one way that I would suggest we are able to measure a bit of what's happening in terms of the development and the benefit of training. Thank you.
Minister of Finance. Oral questions. Member from Mophie.
Okay. Question for Minister of Housing. Mr. Speaker, with housing crisis in Klitschko region, in previous budget, commitment was made for an allocation of 10 houses going to Klitschko region, 6 in Betcheko, 3 in Wati, and 1 in Gameti. Can we get an update? Can I get an update on the status of where this project is at in Klitschko region? Thank you.
Mophie, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Mr. Speaker, the work with housing over the last couple of years has been extensive. Again, we've had 100 units across the north from the 19th Assembly, and then we're completing the work of the 20th Assembly. So again, in terms of specifics, I would have to give the members some information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
NWT, member from Mophie.
Thank you for the answer, Mr. Speaker. I have been talking to the communities about the status of these units, if they've seen anything, and a lot of them are saying there's nothing happening right now. So, well, I would like to get the report, or I just wanted to ask if it's going to go ahead, is there a timeline of when this project is going to be completed? We have a lot of people on the wait list, like I have said many times, so I just want to know where it's at and what's a timeline. Thank you.
Responsible for Housing and NWT.
Speaker, again, understanding the situation, I do know for a fact that with the 8494 unit, because the Klitschko have been assigned 10 of those units to Klitschko government, that the community of Betcheko will be assigned 10 of the modular units over the next 2 years. So these are being constructed in the Northwest Territories at the Metcan facility and in Betcheko in partnership with Klitschko government. So over the next couple of years, we'll have 10 units for the community of Betcheko. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Housing and NWT. Oral questions. Oral questions, member from Yelney Centre.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recently, a number of us were at a Yonif Catholic School Board meeting, and they talked about their ability to, say, continue this year because they had, in essence, protected Jordan's principal money, and that was simply by happenstance that they had a contract in place, and so the cuts didn't affect them directly. But they're recently quoted on the in the news of saying basically their funding is at risk, if not yeah, their funding's at risk, future risk. And knowing that the government is moving forward on wanting to spend current year money on Jordan's Principal money, it begs the question, what will the government be planning? So noting that both the Health Minister and the Education Minister have both said and stated that Jordan Principal money is important for our education system, my question for the Minister of Education is, what are they doing to get back into the stream of Jordan Principal support beyond this current proposed contribution? Thank you.
Member from Yonge Centre, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the member is right. There was a news release that went out yesterday from Yellowknife Catholic Schools expressing future risk. Mr. Speaker, we are waiting to hear from the federal government as to what changes they're making to the current program, and we expect to hear more on Budget Day. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the Prime Minister has said clearly, buckle up. And if nothing comes, is it the government's plan to start strategizing to build this type of educational funding into our current and future plans? Thank you.
Yonge Centre, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our plan at the moment, and we've been working on it for the entire year now, is working on a review of our inclusive schooling directive. And so a lot of the funding that goes into schools is to support students, for us to meet them where they're at and make sure that they are supported in their classrooms. And so that review will tell us what those recommendations are, what teachers are looking for, what families are looking for, what students are looking for, so that we can take a look at that directive and take a look at our system globally. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Final supplementary. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So as a collective, I'd say it this way. We have Jordan Principal money being lost and a number of students being impacted. We have teachers, assistants being impacted, and we have inclusive schooling in general at risk here. Does the minister have the numbers of how many students are impacted by these financial, we'll say, changes or that are at risk? And if she doesn't have them, can she share them with the members of the House? Thank you.
Yonge Centre, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot of the funding, well, a portion of the funding goes to classroom assistants, and those classroom assistants could be supporting one student, they could be supporting multiple students. Funding also goes for speech-language pathologists. It goes to occupational therapy. The funding is also used for things like pontoon boats or skidoos in order to do on-the-land activities as well. And so one could say that this would have an impact directly or indirectly to every student across Canada. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just have a follow-up question for the Minister of Infrastructure. I understand that there's priorities that need to be set. Therefore, I'm seeking a commitment that the GNWT be ready to action a building standards framework at the start of the 21st Assembly. That means getting the preparatory work done now. Thank you.
Member from Frame Lake, Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I guess part of the problem is that we do have a lot of the work completed, and there's been a lot of background work going on with it. However, we're not building a made in the north standard building frame. I can't even say the word agreement. Sorry. It is a Canadian one, and of course, with the things that have been changing, we're constantly updating it. So moving ahead, there is a commitment to put it forward here the next year, and hopefully by the 21st Assembly we have it ready to go. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Of Infrastructure. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm noticing a bit of there's a theme of hope developing in the sitting today. Mr. Speaker, can we go a little bit beyond hope and just get a commitment that this is going to be ready in the 21st Assembly for adoption by the Assembly, or for a legislative proposal to come forward? It's important work. The Human Rights Commission has been asking for it for years. Let's get it done, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
From Frame Lake, Minister of Infrastructure. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen, I don't disagree with the member. This is a commitment that has been with the member. Sorry, with This is a commitment that's been made. It's been on the table for a long time. The department's continually working on it. Like I said, priorities of the Legislative Assembly and legislative proposals are all, they're all there, and sometimes these ones get pushed on the back burner a little bit. Depends on what the appetite of all the members are, and currently this one here has been slowed down a little bit, but again, the commitment is to have this completed, hopefully in 2026 and the beginning of the 21st Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Of Municipal and Community Affairs. Final supplementary, member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I keep hearing that word, hopefully. Can we just get a commitment in place? This is a long time coming. It's a piece of legislation for a future assembly. Let's get the work in place so that we're ready to bring it forward in the 21st. I think the problem that we've identified, a few of us in talking back and forth, has been, when this assembly came into place, we didn't have legislation ready to go right off the bat. I think it would be great to see that happen. It'll certainly be a recommendation I make to the Transition Committee. Can we just get a commitment on the floor to get this ready and have it ready for the 21st Assembly so we can get that act in place? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Frame Lake. Minister, Municipal and Community Affairs.
I don't know how else to word this. I've been pretty much agreeing with him, but I don't know how else to. Yes, I guess so. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Minister, Municipal and Community Affairs. Colleagues, our time is up for oral questions. Written questions. Written questions. Member from Illinois Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have three written questions today. The Government of the Northwest Territories continues to face significant challenges in recruiting and retaining healthcare professionals, including physicians and nurses. As a result, locums have been and continue to be utilized by the Government of the Northwest Territories in healthcare delivery. My questions are for the Minister responsible for Health and Social Services. Number one, how many physicians who have previously held full-time or part-time positions in the Northwest Territories have returned to work as locums in the past 3 years? Number two, how many nurses who have previously held full-time or part-time positions in the Northwest Territories have returned to work as locums in the past 3 years? Number three, what is the average cost difference to the Government of the Northwest Territories between employing a full-time or part-time physician versus hiring the same individual as a locum? Number four, what is the average cost difference to the Government of the Northwest Territories between employing a full-time or part-time nurse versus hiring the same individual as a locum? Mr. Speaker, that was my healthcare professional returning as locums question. My second question is about Northwest Territories medical students rejected for residency. Mr. Speaker, the development of a sustainable healthcare workforce in the Northwest Territories is dependent on supporting and retaining Northern professionals. More Northerners employed in healthcare would provide stable and inspire more Northerners to work in the healthcare. It has come to light that several Northwest Territories residents who are medical students have attempted to complete their residencies within the Northwest Territories but were not accommodated. This raises concerns about the barriers facing prospective local physicians and long-term impacts on healthcare delivery in the North. My questions are to the Minister of Health and Social Services. Number one, how many Northwest Territory resident medical students have applied to complete their medical residences in the Northwest Territories in the past 5 years? Number two, how many were accepted/accommodated and how many were rejected? Number three, what are the medical fields/areas of practice or specialities able to be undertaken as a resident in a residency in the Northwest Territories? And number four, what steps is the department taking to ensure the Northwest Territories resident medical students are supported in completing their medical training, including residency placements within the Northwest Territories? Mr. Speaker, my third question is about the senior envoy. The Government of the Northwest Territories has appointed a senior envoy to the Government of Canada to strengthen the intergovernmental relations and advance territorial priorities. My questions are to the Premier. Can the Premier provide a detailed account of the work undertaken by the senior envoy to the Government of Canada, including specific initiatives, projects, and policy areas the envoy is leading or supporting since the position was created. Number 2, can the Premier provide a detailed list of who the senior envoy has met with in Ottawa and elsewhere since assuming the role, and what primary subjects or topics were discussed during these meetings? Number 3, Mr. Speaker, can the Premier clarify how many days per month the senior envoy is working in Ottawa versus the Northwest Territories? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Milne Centre. Written question. Written question. Returns to written questions. Returns to written questions. Replies to the Commissioner's address. Replies to the Commissioner's address. Petitions. Petitions. Reports of Committee on Review of Bills. Reports on Community Review of Bills. Reports of Standing and Special Committee. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges is pleased to provide its report on the review of Motion 56-20(1), Code of Conduct referral to the Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges. The Standing Committee on Procedures and Privileges is pleased to report on the review of Motion 56-20(1), Code of Conduct referral to the Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges. On May 27, 2025, Motion 56-20(1), the motion, was carried in the House and referred to the committee for further review. The motion, moved by the member for Great Slave and seconded by the member for Yellowknife South, was introduced to raise concerns regarding the potential impacts of members' online and social media activities on the credibility and institutional integrity of the Legislative Assembly. The motion highlights concerns about how online statements may affect public trust. Even when a member's post complies with legal and procedural requirements, it can still influence how the public views the Legislative Assembly, all members, and can affect the confidence in government processes. The motion emphasizes the value of respectful communication and the importance of maintaining professional standards in public roles. The motion is attached to this report as Appendix A. Committee has considered these matters and is prepared to provide a report to this House. Within the Legislative Assembly, freedom of speech is a core privilege. Members have the right to speak freely during official Assembly business, including in committee meetings. This is a key part of their role. The Assembly's rules currently only govern what members say during those formal proceedings. These rules do not apply to what members say outside of those settings, including online settings. Additionally, the Code of Conduct, which is legally binding under Section 75 of the Legislative Assembly and Executive Council Act, sets expectations for the behavior of all members. The Code of Conduct exists to ensure members act in ways that build public trust both inside and outside the Assembly. What one member says or does can affect how the public views other members and the Assembly as a whole. The Guides to Rules relating to the conduct of members notes that members are expected to hold themselves to a high standard of conduct. This reflects the public trust placed in elected officials and applies to both public and private behavior. However, the Code does not define what constitutes a high standard, nor does it provide specific limits or examples. The Code of Conduct affirms that it does not restrict the Assembly's authority to regulate its internal affairs. This means that any restriction on member conduct, whether inside or outside of these proceedings, depends on a collective decision-making by all members. Members must be willing to define and adopt reasonable boundaries on individual privilege to safeguard the institution's credibility. Committee discussion and deliberations related to this matter were guided by a deep respect for the importance of parliamentary privilege, the guiding principles of consensus government in the Northwest Territories, the principles of the Members' Code of Conduct, the rules of the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly, as well as the individual experience, expectation, and views of committee members. Open and respectful communication between members is a key guiding principle of the consensus government in the consensus government in the Northwest Territories, as is the ability and willingness of all members of the Legislative Assembly to work together within their respective roles for the collective good of the people of the Northwest Territories. Together, these principles can help build the foundation for a legislature that is seen as a safe and respectful workplace for space for all members, staff, and visitors. and can help build public confidence and trust in the Legislative Assembly, all members, and government processes. Committee recognizes the need for respectful communication among members, both during proceedings of the Assembly and in other settings. However, committee does not believe that the Code of Conduct is the appropriate mechanism to address these concerns. This applies whether concerns relate specifically to online comments, as outlined in the motion, or to broader forms of communication. Committee believes that leaving the Code of Conduct open to interpretation of the Integrity Commissioner is both appropriate and desirable. To that end, committee makes the following recommendation. Recommendation 1. The Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges recommends that the Office of the Clerk develop a document outlining principles for public statements by all members of the Legislative Assembly, whether made online, in traditional media, or spoken outside of the proceedings of the Assembly, and that this document be reviewed by all members of caucus. Further, if adopted by caucus, the document should be made publicly available in a manner directed by caucus. This concludes the committee's report on its review of Motion 56-20(1), Code of Conduct referral to the Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave. Member from Great Slave.
Mr. Speaker, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Hay River South, that Committee Report 34-20(1), Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges report on the review of Motion 56-20(1), Code of Conduct referral to the Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges be received and adopted by the Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member from Great Slave. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is carried. Committee Report 56-20(1) has been received and adopted by the Assembly. Reports on standing committee or standing and special committees. Reports on standing and special committees. Tabling of documents. Tabling of documents. Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following two documents. Plain language summary for Bill 34, Trespass to Property Act, and Statement of Consistency for Bill 34, Trespass to Property Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Tabling of documents, Minister of Finance and Minister responsible for the Power Corp.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following three documents. The 71st Annual Report 2024-2025 for the Northwest Territories Liquor Licensing Board, the Northwest Territories Liquor and Cannabis Commission 71st Annual Report 2024-2025, and the Northwest Territories Hydro and Northwest Territories Power Corporation 2024-2025 Annual Report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Finance and Minister responsible for Power Corp. Tabling of documents, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following document, Government of the Northwest Territories, response to motion 61-20(1), remuneration of essential staff during an evacuation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Tabling the documents, Minister responsible for status of women.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following document, 2024-2025 Annual Report Action Plan in response to calls for justice on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for status of women. Tabling the documents, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following document. Government of Northwest Territories response to motion 63-20(1), creation of an emergency management agency for the Northwest Territories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Tabling the documents. Colleagues, pursuant to Section 108(3) of the Legislative Assembly and Executive Council Act, I wish to table the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly Legal Fee Policy. Thank you, members. Tabling of documents. Tabling of documents. Notice of motions. Notice of motions. Motions. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Thabacha, that notwithstanding Rule 2.1, When the House adjourns on Friday, October 31st, 2025, it shall be adjourned until Wednesday, February 4th, 2026, and further that any time prior to February 4th, 2026, if the Speaker is satisfied, after consultation with the Executive Council and members of the Legislative Assembly, that the public interest requires that the House should meet at an earlier or later time during the adjournment, the Speaker may give notice, and thereupon the House shall meet at the time stated in such notice and shall transact its business as it has been duly adjourned to that time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Yellowknife North. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? Yay. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion is carried. Notice of motion, motions. Notice of motions, first reading the bills. Notice of motion, first reading the bills. First reading the bills. Colleagues, being cognitive of the time, we will take a brief recess to give some break for the translators. Thank you. Colleagues, after a short break, second reading of bills. Second reading of bills, Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I move seconded by the honourable member from Nanakput that Bill 34, Trespass to Property Act, be read for the second time. The proposed Trespass to Property Act is to enhance public safety and private property protections and will establish trespassing as a territorial offence. The bill will address significant gaps in trespassing law by creating a new law intended to govern trespass to private property, to schools, and to certain types of private interests on public lands, such as leases. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, the motion is in order. To the principle of the bill. Question has been called. All those in favor? Yay. All those opposed? All those abstain? The motion is carried. Bill 34 has been read a second time and is referred to the Standing Committee of Assembly for further considerations. Second reading of bills. Second reading of bills, Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I move seconded by the honourable member for Hay River North that Bill 35, Miscellaneous Statutes Law Amendment Act 2026, be read for the second time. This bill corrects inconsistencies and errors in the statutes of the Northwest Territories. The bill also deals with other matters of a minor, non-controversial, or uncomplicated nature in the statutes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Justice, the motion is in order. To the principle of the bill. Question has been called. All those in favor? Yay. All those opposed? All those abstaining? The motion is carried. Bill 35 has been read a second time and is referred to the Standing Committee of the Assembly for further consideration. Second reading of bills, second reading of bills. Consideration Committee of the Whole and other matters. CR 33-20 brackets 1. Standing Committee with the member from Tuna-Day-Willity in the chair.
I now call the committee of the whole to order. I'm going to go to the member from Inuvik-Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the committee wishes to consider committee report 33-20 brackets 1, Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges report on the review of the rules of the Northwest Territories Legislature Assembly number 2. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Does the committee agree? Okay, thank you. Committee, we have agreed to consider Committee Report 33-20 brackets 1, Standing Committee on Procedure and Privilege report of the review of the rules of the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly number 2. I will go to the chair of the Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges for opening comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In June and September of 2025, the committee received a correspondence from Speaker Thompson requesting a review of certain rules of the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly. The committee has considered the matters referred by the Speaker and delivered its report to the House on October 29th, 2025. Individual members may have additional comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor to general comments on Committee Report 33-20 brackets 1, Standing Committee on Procedure, Privileges, and report on the review of the rules of the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly. Are there any comments from the members? Seeing no further comments, members for Great Slave. I'll go back to the member for Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that this committee recommends that the following be added to Rule 7.3, brackets 3.1, written questions must be provided in writing to the Speaker at least 24 hours prior to the commencement of the sitting day. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The motion is in order. To the motion. Question's been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carried. Thank you. I'll go back to the member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that this committee recommends that the Office of the Clerk develop and distribute to all members of the Legislative Assembly a document providing guidelines for written questions and including a template that can be used by members. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. The motion's in order. To the motion, question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carried. I'll go back to the member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that this committee recommends that Rule 4.1 brackets 5 be amended to read: the daily orders of business in the Assembly on Thursdays shall be prayer or reflection, minister statements, member statements, recognition of visitors in the gallery, notice of motions, motions, return to oral questions, acknowledgements, oral questions, written questions, returns to written questions, replies to Commissioner's address, petitions, reports on the committees of review of bills, reports of standing and special committees, tabling of documents, notices of motion for the first reading of bills, first reading of bills, second reading of bills, consideration in committee of the whole of bills and other matters, report of committee of the whole, third reading of bills, orders of the day. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Thank you. I'll go back to the member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that this committee recommends that Rule 2.1 brackets 1 brackets C be amended to read: a sitting beginning on the second Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The motion's in order. To the motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carried. Thank you. I'll go back to the member from Great Slave.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, committee. Do you agree that you have concluded consideration of committee report 33-20 brackets 1, Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges report on the review of the rules of the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly number 2? Do you agree? Thank you. Committee, we have concluded consideration committee report 33-20 brackets 1, Standing Committee on Procedures, Privileges, and report on the review of the rules of the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly number 2. Thank you. I'm going to go to the member from Nunavik Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move the chair rise and report progress.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to report progress. The motion is in order and non-debatable. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. I will not rise and report progress. Thank you.
All right, reports of the Committee of the Whole. Member from Toonaday-Willety.
Mr. Speaker, your committee has been considering Committee Report 33-20 brackets 1 and would like to report progress with 4 motions carried, and that Committee Report 33-20 brackets 1 is concluded. And Mr. Speaker, I move the report of the Committee of the Whole be concurred with. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Toonaday-Willety. Can I have a seconder? Let's go to Nuvik Twin Lakes. No, Nuvik Boot Lakes. There we go. It was the wrong lake. Nuvik Boot Lakes. Motion's in order. Question has been called. All those in favor? Yay. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carried. Mr. Clerk, can you determine whether the Commissioner of the Northwest Territories, the Honourable Gerald Kassoon, is prepared to enter the chambers and ascend the bills?
Please be seated. Akana Inuit, Drin Gwinzi Shakwichinkat. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, Premier Simpson, ministers, members of the Legislative Assembly, staff, and visitors in the public gallery. Thank you all for the work you have done during this sitting to represent the people of the Northwest Territories. I wish to acknowledge that the land on which we have gathered our treaty lands, and the home to many Indigenous peoples, including the Akecho Dene, the Klecho, and the Métis. This is the last time that we will gather in this way until after the holiday season. As the weather turns cold and the excitement of the season and outdoor winter activities begin to rise, I ask that you and the people of the Northwest Territories take the time to appreciate the gifts that nature provides us. May you find peace in the calm of a quiet, cold morning, and remember that you are both loved and appreciated by more people than you know. Now, as Commissioner of the Northwest Territories, I am pleased to assent to the following bills. Bill 21, an act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act. Bill 22, Legislation Act. Bill 23, an act to amend the Children's Law. Bill 24, an act to amend the Family Law Act. Bill 27, an act to amend the Protection Against Family Violence Act. Bill 28, an act to amend the Student Financial Assistance Act number 2. Bill 36, Appropriation Act, Infrastructure Expenditures 2026-2027. Bill 37, Supplementary Appropriation Act, Operations Expenditures and Borrowing Authorization number 3, 2024-2025. Bill 38, Supplementary Appropriation Act, Infrastructure Expenditures number 2, 2025-2026. Bill 39, Supplementary Appropriation Act, Operations Expenditures number 2, 2025-2026. Masicho, thank you. Kuyanaini, ha'ai, merci beaucoup, kwana. Thank you.
Colleagues, I'd like to thank the Commissioner, the Honourable Gerald Kissoon, for joining us today to ascend our legislation. It is always a pleasure having him join us in this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Colleagues, before we close for the day, I want to express my gratitude for another successful sitting. I'd like to thank each of you for your efforts over the past few weeks. This has not been a long sitting, but I believe it was a productive one. I am proud of what we've accomplished in a short time, and I hope you are proud of yourselves as well. I'd also like to thank everyone else that contributed to our successful sitting, especially our pages, interpreters, and contractors who helped us keep the building running safely and efficiently or effectively. We also owe gratitude to the staff of the Office of the Clerk, as well as all public servants who made it possible for us to do our jobs. We couldn't do what we do without all this support. Please join me in thanking them for all that. Colleagues, I started this sitting by encouraging each of you to review the guiding principles of consensus government in the Northwest Territories. And I want to remind you to do so. I also want to remind you that we, as members of the Legislative Assembly, do things different from our counterparts in the other legislators across the country. I believe we are and must be held to a higher standard when it comes to order, decorum, and respect for each other, this institution, and the people who elect us. We are expected to work together. We are expected to hold each other to account, and we are expected to communicate respectfully. I expect this from each of us. The people who elected us expect this from each of us, and we should expect this from each other. Colleagues, this House is not scheduled to sit again until February. The business of the government and committee will continue during this period. But I hope you are able to find some time to both relax and connect with your family, friends, and constituents. Let them know you appreciate them and all they've done to support you. Colleagues, I'll try to keep it short and end by saying I wish everyone a very happy Halloween and Christmas season. To everyone who will be trick-or-treating, whether it's here in Yellowknife or back in our communities, please be safe. Don't eat all the Halloween candy until some of us get back so we can share it, but please enjoy the rest of the season. Orders of the day, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Orders of the day for Wednesday, February 4th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. Prayer, reflection, minister statements, member statements, returns to oral questions, recognition of visitors in the gallery, acknowledgements, oral questions, written questions, returns to written questions, written question 21, written question 22, written question 23, written question 24, written question 25, replies to the Commissioner's address, petitions, reports of committees on the review of bills, reports of standing and special committees, tabling of documents, notices of motion, motions, notices of motion for first reading of bills, first reading of bills, second reading of bills, consideration in committee of the whole of bills and other matters, report of committee of the whole, third reading of bills, orders of the day. Merci, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We adjourn till February 4th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. Enjoy your Christmas.